My name is Lila Harper, and if you're reading this, it probably means word has gotten out about what happened between me, my old boss, and the CEO who changed everything. Let me start by saying I never wanted any of this. Not the drama, not the revenge, not even the promotion that came later. All I wanted was to do good work and be treated fairly for it. But life has a way of twisting things when you least expect it. I'm 32 years old now, though sometimes I feel like I've lived 3 lifetimes in one. My career started modestly enough. I worked as a junior project manager at Crestwood Solutions, a mid-sized marketing firm known for its flashy campaigns but questionable ethics. The company wasn't perfect, but it gave me stability after college, and I learned quickly how to navigate corporate politics, or so I thought. Back then, I was just another cog in the machine. Ambitious, hardworking, and naive enough to believe that doing your best would always pay off. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Not unless someone powerful notices. And trust me, there's nothing more dangerous than being noticed by the wrong person. The trouble began with a client named Apex Innovations. They were big, really big. One of those tech giants everyone talks about because they're either revolutionizing industries or monopolizing them, depending on who you ask. Apex had hired us to revamp their brand strategy, which sounded exciting until I realized what it actually meant. Endless revisions, impossible deadlines, and an unspoken expectation that we'd go above and beyond without extra pay. That last part? Yeah, that's where things got messy. Let me back up a little. Our team leader for the Apex account was Marissa Caldwell, a woman whose reputation preceded her. She was sharp, ruthless, and brilliant at climbing the corporate ladder, one rung at a time, no matter who she stepped on along the way. Marissa had been at Crestwood for nearly a decade, and during that time, she'd built herself into something of a legend. Clients loved her because she delivered results, and executives adored her because she made them look good. But behind closed doors? Well, let's just say working under Marissa wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Marissa ran our department like a dictatorship disguised as a democracy. She demanded perfection from everyone, but rarely offered praise. If you succeeded, it was because she guided you every step of the way, or so she claimed. If you failed, it was entirely your fault, and heaven help you if you tried to argue otherwise. Still, I respected her talent. For all her flaws, Marissa knew how to play the game better than anyone else. When Apex came knocking, Marissa handpicked me to join the core team. At first, I thought it was a compliment, a sign that she saw potential in me. Looking back, I realized it was more about convenience. I was young, eager to prove myself, and too intimidated to push back when things got tough. In other words, I was easy to manipulate. Our initial meetings with Apex went smoothly enough. Their CEO, Victor Lang, joined some of the calls himself, which was unusual for someone at his level. Most executives delegated these kinds of projects to middle managers, but Victor seemed genuinely invested in the process. He was charismatic, articulate, and disarmingly down-to-earth for someone worth billions. You could tell he cared deeply about his company's image, and he expected nothing less than excellence from us. Victor's presence set the tone for the entire project. From day one, the stakes felt impossibly high. We weren't just redesigning a logo or tweaking a tagline. We were redefining Apex's identity. Every brainstorming session turned into a pressure cooker, and every draft presentation felt like a make-or-break moment. It was exhilarating and exhausting in equal measure. But then came the requests, the ones that went beyond the scope of our contract. First, it was small stuff. Could we add a few extra slides to the pitch deck? Sure, no problem. Then it escalated. What about creating mock-ups for social media ads? Again, fine, we could manage. But when they started asking for full-blown campaign strategies, complete with detailed analytics and budget breakdowns, that's when the red flags began waving furiously. Marissa called a meeting to address the issue. Apex is pushing boundaries, she said, pacing the conference room like a general strategizing for battle. They want more than what we agreed to deliver. And frankly, that's a good thing. It means they trust us to handle bigger responsibilities. Doesn't it also mean they're taking advantage of us? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I hated confrontation, especially with Marissa, but someone had to say it. She stopped pacing and fixed me with a cold stare. Taking advantage? No, Lila, this is opportunity. When a client asks for more, you don't say no. You adapt. You hustle. You show them why Crestwood is the best at what we do. But we're not getting paid for this additional work, I pointed out. We're already stretched thin as it is. Marissa sighed, as if explaining something obvious to a child. That's the nature of consulting, Lila. Sometimes you have to invest up front to reap the rewards later. Besides, think about your resume. Imagine writing, led the Apex Innovations rebranding initiative under your accomplishments. Doesn't that sound better than refuse to put in extra effort? Her words stung, partly because they hit close to home. I did want to succeed. I wanted recognition, respect, and proof that I belonged in this cutthroat industry. But I also believed in fairness. If we were going to pour countless unpaid hours into this project, shouldn't we at least negotiate terms that reflected our efforts? Apparently, Marissa didn't share my perspective. Things only got worse from there. Apex kept piling on demands, each one more unreasonable than the last. Meanwhile, Marissa doubled down on her mantra. Deliver, deliver, deliver. The rest of the team fell in line, too afraid to question her authority. Except me. One evening, after yet another grueling day of unpaid overtime, I decided I'd had enough. I sent Marissa an email outlining my concerns. I explained how unsustainable this situation was, both for our team's morale and for the quality of our work. I suggested setting boundaries with Apex and renegotiating the contract to include compensation for the additional services they were requesting. I even included data showing how similar situations had backfired for other agencies. To my surprise, Marissa replied within minutes. Her response was short and icy. Your attitude is unacceptable. Meet me in my office tomorrow morning. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, rehearsing what I'd say to defend myself. By the time I arrived at work the next day, I felt prepared, or at least as prepared as I could be. Walking into Marissa's office felt like stepping into the lion's den. She sat behind her desk, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Close the door, she instructed. I obeyed, my heart pounding in my chest. Lila, she began, leaning forward slightly. You've been with us for 3 years now, correct? Yes, I replied cautiously. In that time, you've shown promise. You're smart, capable, and driven. But lately, I've noticed a troubling pattern. You seem hesitant, reluctant to push yourself beyond what's comfortable. I'm not reluctant, I countered. I'm advocating for our team, for the company. We can't keep giving away free labor and expect to thrive. And what makes you think we aren't thriving? She shot back. Do you know how much revenue this account brings in? How many doors it opens for us? You're looking at the trees instead of the forest. That's not true, I argued. I understand the importance of the account, but sustainability matters too. If we burn ourselves out trying to meet unrealistic expectations, we'll lose talented people, including me. Marissa raised an eyebrow. Are you threatening to quit? No, I said firmly. I'm asking for balance, for fairness. Isn't that what leadership is supposed to provide? For a moment, she just stared at me, as if weighing whether I was worth salvaging. Then she leaned back in her chair and exhaled sharply. Fine. Here's the deal. Either you fall in line and stop questioning my decisions, or you're out. Simple as that. Her ultimatum hit me, like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. Was she serious? Did she really think loyalty meant blind obedience? Before I could gather my thoughts, she added, Consider this your final warning. The rest of the week passed in a blur. I threw myself into the project, hoping to prove my dedication while silently fuming over Marissa's refusal to listen. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. The trust between us, if it had ever existed, was gone. Then came the call that changed everything. Victor Lang himself requested a private meeting with me. At first, I assumed it was routine, maybe a chance to discuss feedback on our latest deliverables. But when I walked into the sleek boardroom at Apex headquarters, I found him sitting alone, a faint smile playing on his lips. Lila, he greeted warmly, gesturing for me to sit. Thank you for coming. You're welcome, I replied, still unsure why I was there. Is everything okay with the project? Oh, the project's fine, he said dismissively. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else. Something personal. Personal? My stomach churned. This couldn't be good. Victor leaned forward. his piercing gaze locking onto mine. "I've heard rumors about your situation at Crestwood, about how you've been treated unfairly. Is that true?" How did he know? Had someone tipped him off? Or was this just another power move designed to unsettle me? "It's complicated." I hedged, choosing my words carefully. "There are challenges, yes, but I'm managing." He nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, let me tell you something, Lila. I admire integrity. People who stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Too often, I see businesses exploit that kind of courage. And I don't tolerate exploitation. Not in my company, and certainly not among my partners." His words caught me off guard. Was he offering sympathy? Support? Or was this leading somewhere darker? Before I could respond, he continued, "Here's the thing. I need someone I can trust to oversee this project moving forward. Someone who understands the value of hard work and honesty. Someone like you." My breath hitched. Was he suggesting what I thought he was suggesting? "I appreciate the vote of confidence," I managed to say. "But I'm obligated to Crestwood. I can't just abandon them." Victor's smile widened, as if he'd been waiting for me to say exactly that. "Who said anything about abandoning them?" "No, Lila, I'm offering you a choice. Stay where you are and continue fighting battles you may not win, or come work for me, directly for me, as part of Apex." The offer hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy with implications. Work for Victor Lang? Leave Crestwood and Marissa behind? It sounded insane, impossible. Yet, as I sat there, staring into his determined eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that this might be exactly what I needed. What I didn't realize yet was how far-reaching the consequences of that decision would be, for me, for Marissa, and for everyone involved. I stared at Victor, my mind racing. The weight of his offer pressed down on me, and for a moment I felt like the room was spinning. Work for Apex? Directly under Victor Lang? It wasn't just a job, it was a seismic shift in my career, my life. Everything I thought I knew about loyalty and ambition. I don't know what to say," I stammered finally, trying to buy myself time. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. Victor leaned back in his chair, his expression calm but calculating. "You don't have to decide right now," he said smoothly. "But let me be clear. This isn't just an opportunity for you, it's also a solution. For both of us. A solution?" I echoed, frowning slightly. He nodded. "Crestwood has been struggling to keep up with our demands. Marissa Caldwell is talented, yes, but she's stretched thin managing multiple accounts, including ours. And frankly," he paused, his tone shifting ever so slightly. "Frankly, I've heard whispers about her management style, about how she treats her team. If those rumors are true, and I suspect they are, it's only a matter of time before it affects the quality of your work. Of our work." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? That he already knew about my conflict with Marissa? That he'd been watching from the sidelines, waiting for the perfect moment to intervene? "You're asking me to leave Crestwood," I said slowly, piecing together the implications. "To walk away from my team, my colleagues, everything I've built there." "Not everything," Victor corrected gently. "Just the parts that hold you back. Think about it, Lila. You've shown incredible initiative, integrity, and skill during this project. I see potential in you, potential that's being wasted where you are now. Why stay somewhere that doesn't value you when you could thrive here?" It sounded too good to be true, too clean, too simple. But deep down, I couldn't deny the allure of his proposal. Working directly for Apex would mean freedom from Marissa's micromanagement, freedom from the endless grind of unpaid overtime, and most importantly, freedom to grow into the professional I'd always dreamed of becoming. Still, something nagged at me, a voice in the back of my head warning me not to trust him completely. Victor Lang wasn't just any CEO, he was a master strategist, someone who played chess while everyone else played checkers. What did he really want from me? And what would happen to Crestwood and Marissa if I accepted? "I'll think about it," I said finally, forcing myself to sound composed despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "But I need time." Victor smiled, clearly pleased with my response. "Of course. Take all the time you need. Just remember, Lila, opportunities like this don't come around often. Don't let fear or doubt stand in your way." The drive back to Crestwood's office felt surreal, like I'd stepped out of one world and into another. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as I replayed the conversation in my head over and over again. Victor's offer had thrown everything into sharp relief. The frustration, the exhaustion, the simmering resentment I'd buried for months. When I walked through the glass doors of Crestwood's headquarters, I felt like an outsider looking in. The familiar hum of keyboards clicking, phones ringing, and hushed conversations seemed distant, almost alien. How could I go back to this after seeing what lay beyond? Marissa spotted me immediately. She was standing near the coffee machine, scrolling through emails on her phone. When our eyes met, she gave me a curt nod, her lips pressed into a thin line. There was no warmth in her gaze, no acknowledgement of the tension between us. Just cold professionalism. For a brief moment, I considered telling her everything. About Victor's offer, about how trapped I felt, about the growing realization that staying here might destroy me. But then I remembered her ultimatum, fall in line or get out. That wasn't negotiation, it was control. And I refused to give her the satisfaction of knowing she'd won. Instead, I forced a smile and headed to my desk, pretending nothing was wrong. Pretending I hadn't just been offered the chance to change my entire life. The next few days were agonizing. Every email from Apex felt heavier than the last. Every meeting with Marissa more suffocating. I tried to focus on the work, to lose myself in spreadsheets and strategy decks, but my mind kept drifting back to Victor's words. What if he was right? What if this was my chance to break free? Then, late one afternoon, disaster struck. We were presenting a revised campaign plan to Apex's marketing team when Marissa made a critical mistake. One of the slides contained outdated data, a glaring error that shouldn't have slipped past anyone, let alone someone as meticulous as her. The room fell silent as the client representative pointed it out, their tone dripping with thinly veiled disdain. Marissa froze, her face turning pale. For once, she didn't have a polished comeback or a clever deflection. Instead, she turned to me, her eyes wide with panic. "Fix it," she whispered urgently. "Now." My stomach churned. This wasn't just a minor oversight. It was a reflection of how overstretched and disorganized we'd become. But fixing it meant admitting fault, taking responsibility for something that wasn't entirely my doing. And yet, if I didn't step up, the fallout would be catastrophic for the project, for Crestwood, and for me. "I'll handle it," I murmured, stepping forward before she could say anything else. Facing the client, I apologized sincerely and promised to send updated materials by the end of the day. They accepted my explanation grudgingly, though the damage was done. As soon as the call ended, Marissa pulled me aside. "What the hell happened?" she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "How did that slide make it into the presentation?" "It's not just one slide," I shot back, surprising even myself with my boldness. "We're drowning here, Marissa. You can't keep pushing us to do more with less and expect perfection." Something was bound to slip through the cracks. Her jaw tightened, and for a split second I thought she might explode. But instead, she took a deep breath and forced a brittle smile. "Fine. Lesson learned. Let's move on." Move on. I wanted to scream. Move on from what? The fact that we were hemorrhaging resources for a client who treated us like disposable assets? The fact that she refused to acknowledge the toll this was taking on everyone? Or the fact that I was teetering on the edge of walking away forever? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every argument, every insult, every sacrifice I'd made for Crestwood. And then, like a lightning bolt, it hit me. I deserved better. Not just better pay or better hours, but better leadership, better respect, better opportunities. By morning, I'd made up my mind. The resignation letter was short and to the point. No grand speeches, no dramatic flourishes. Just a polite thank you and a farewell. I handed it to HR first thing, knowing full well that news of my departure would spread quickly. Sure enough, within minutes, Marissa stormed into my cubicle, her face flushed with anger. "What is this?" she demanded, waving the letter in front of me. "You're quitting? Over some minor setback." "It's not about one setback," I replied evenly, meeting her gaze without flinching. "It's about everything. The lack of support, the unrealistic expectations, the refusal to value the people who make this company run. I can't do it anymore." Her nostrils flared, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But instead, she straightened her spine and glared at me with icy disdain. "You'll regret this," she spat. "Mark my words." Maybe she was right. Maybe leaving Crestwood would haunt me someday. But as I packed up my things and walked out of the building for the last time, I couldn't bring myself to care. For the first time in years, I felt free. Victor greeted me warmly when I arrived at Apex the following Monday. His office was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. As I settled into my new role, I couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration mixed with trepidation. This was uncharted territory, a fresh start filled with possibilities and risks. But one thing was certain. Whatever happened next, Marissa Caldwell wouldn't see it coming. Months later, Lila thrived at Apex, her talent and dedication earning her respect across the company. Victor mentored her closely, helping her grow into a confident leader who championed fairness and integrity in the workplace. Meanwhile, Crestwood struggled without her, losing key clients due to mismanagement, especially under Marissa's increasingly erratic leadership. One day, Lila received an email from a former colleague. Marissa had been demoted after a string of failures, leaving her reputation in tatters. Though Lila felt a pang of sympathy, she knew it wasn't her victory. It was simply proof that hard work and honesty always prevail. As Lila stood by the window of her new office overlooking the city, she smiled. She had built a life rooted in authenticity and purpose, proving that sometimes walking away is the first step toward finding where you truly belong. And for the first time, she felt whole.